took the oath of office. He didn't have anything to do with it. So the first thing I will tell you is we don't need to go back to trickle-down economics. Tax cuts for billionaires and millionaires will not produce new jobs and rising incomes. What will produce new jobs and rising incomes is a major national infrastructure program, a change in business taxes so we actually cut taxes on businesses that share their profits with their workers, retrain their workers, and invest in America in areas left out and left behind, and raise them on people who leave our country while they're making money here. This is not rocket science. We just got to think. Half time I get up in the morning, I read the paper, I look at the evening news, I think, boy, some genius has decided to plant a virus in America to turn our brains off. Think. You have evidence, you have facts, you know. We got to take our assets and run them sky high. Starting with the infrastructure, which is more than roads, bridges, ports, and airports and seaports. It is giving every child in America access to universal affordable broadband so they can all grow together in school. 3 million of our kids don't have it every day. It is taking up all the rusty pipes in America, which are giving children elevated lead levels in their blood all over America and compromising their future. Those are American infrastructure jobs. It is recognizing that by and large, except for the obvious exceptions, Florida, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, by and large, the wind blows hardest and the sun shines brightest in America where people don't live. So you have to have a modern infrastructure with good transmission that is environmentally sustainable and smart. If you did that, that's infrastructure too. Every single thing I just mentioned would require 100% of the labor to be done in the United States of America. Good jobs. One of the things we need to do that Hillary has advocated is to change the banking laws not at the top where the Republicans are determined to do it and put us at risk of another financial crash, but to change it at the bottom and go back to enforcing the Community Reinvestment Act, which requires banks to loan money to small businesses. In every single solitary community, they've got an ATM machine. And look, this is really important to a lot of you. And it relates to the next point I'm going to make, but 2/3 of our new jobs in the last 20 years have come from small businesses. When I had the honor to serve, we were never out of the top 5 countries in the world in small business formation. We are no longer in the top 10. It too is an overhang from the financial crash. The law designed to stop Wall Street from crashing Main Street exempts specifically community banks from the more onerous requirements. But a lot of bankers are still scared. So if you're 25 and you go in and you want to borrow money to start an organic bakery in Keene, let's say, if you could ask for real estate as collateral, most of you are toast. If you got any college debt right now, you may not even have a credit rating. So she has proposed very specific and aggressive efforts to fix this so we can get small business lending going again and make that an important part of our future. The other thing she's proposed to do, putting 500 million solar panels up in the next 4 years, would do an enormous amount, along with continuing the development of wind energy, to bring back manufacturing. And I'll tell you why. And by the way, one of the reasons I believe she's going to win Ohio is that the leaders of the manufacturing caucus for the Democrats, Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio and Congressman Tim Ryan, have supported her strongly because she knows if you want to make stuff, go talk to anybody who makes anything in New Hampshire. What makes it? It's the labor, the materials, the energy, and the transportation costs. What does it cost you to get the stuff here? What does it cost you to send the manufactured product there? So labor is a smaller part of it all the time because we're very efficient. Manufacturing is the most productive sector of the economy. You can pay people high wages to make things in America. And you save all that transport costs from making them somewhere else. The main thing we have control over is energy. Guess where the cheapest electric rates in America are? No, the cheapest electric rates are in Iowa. And at 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour. And the reason is Iowa has the largest percentage of electricity coming from wind generated by farmers on Iowa farms. And because once you build that stuff, it's free. So when Hillary says, you know, we're going to put up 500 million solar panels, it'll make an enormous difference. So you got a good economic plan. Then you have to have an inclusive society to make the most of the economy. The most important thing that has happened since the end of the Democratic primary occurred at the National Democratic Convention when Bernie Sanders, bless his heart, and Hillary agreed to merge their college aid plans. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. And here's how it works. The problem is, as all of you remember, he said we should have free tuition everywhere, but it required the states to come up with a third of the money. In New York and California, we'd like to do it, and they don't have the money to do it. In 30 states with Republican governors, they don't want to do it. So they worked out a deal where you could have free tuition at all public schools for everybody with a family income of up to $125,000. That's 85% of us. At all community colleges. And everybody else can get out debt-free, including people who go to private colleges with reasonable tuition and high graduation rates. That's an amazing achievement. That's how America works, when people get together and work hard. And if you already have debt, the average college debt in America is $30,000. But there are lots of people with graduate degrees in architecture, law, medicine, that owe $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. Under the plan, you would first be able to refinance the debt. A college loan is the only loan in America you can't refinance. I bought a pair of jeans from a woman I've been doing business with for more than 10 years, and her son just graduated from one of the state colleges in New York. She was bursting with pride. I said, "How's your boy doing?" She said, "Oh, great, he made good grades. He's going to get a good job." "Does he have any debt?" She said, "Yeah, quite a bit." I said, "What's the interest rate?" 9%. Right with me. I said, "Do you have a home mortgage?" She said, "Of course I do." "Did you refinance when the interest rates went down?" She said, "Sure." "What's your interest rate?" "Under 4. If America is going to get back in the future business, there is something wrong with asking young college graduates to pay twice the interest rate, more than twice, than their parents do on the home. There's something wrong with that. More than 20 million Americans would immediately save an average of more than $2,000, but those who owe more would save a lot more if you just let them refinance. And Hillary said, remember what I said, if you're under 25, you've got a good chance to live to be 100. That means your college education will help you for longer than any home you ever own. So she said, let's let people turn it into a mortgage. Have a monthly payment at a fixed rate that can never, ever, ever, even if you owe $200,000, be more than 10% of your after-tax income. If you do a public service job of any kind, you can pay it off. The rest of it will be forgiven after 10 years. And if you do some labor-intensive, modest-paying public service jobs, you can actually pay the debt off and have it all forgiven after about 4 years. That's the kind of thing we need to be doing in America. That's solving problems. You have to have an inclusive health care system for seniors and for many people on individual or small business policies. The co-pays, deductibles, and prescription drug costs are still too high. She's the only person that's offered a plan to moderate those costs for all Americans, not just the people that are getting subsidies. Then there's the thing I hear the most about, which President Obama warned about when we were trying to pass this bill before, which is that premiums have gone way up for Americans with the least bargaining power. Who are they? Small businesses just above the small business subsidy limit, and workers just above the individual subsidy limit. So Hillary said if they're 55 or over, let them buy into Medicare. Otherwise, if they're younger, create a public option so there will be real, legitimate competition in every state in America, and these policies will be affordable. This is a very big deal. Now, there are a lot of other things involved in this, building an inclusive society. And you've already heard what Tyler said about civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, the rights of the disabled, but let me just give you a couple of specific examples. When Hillary met the other day with police chiefs of communities that have good community relations with people in the community without regard to race, where there's mutual trust and dispute resolution mechanisms, they said, look, we want body cameras and we want better training, but what we really need is mental health. A lot of you, I'm sure, were moved, as I was, by the police chief in Dallas, Texas, African-American police chief, whose own son was mentally ill and was killed in an incident with the police. And we simply do not have a national network of mental health services that's affordable to everybody. Nor do we have a national network to deal with this epidemic of prescription drug and heroin abuse that has treatment and prevention services for everybody. If you want that, there's only one candidate that has had since the beginning of her campaign a comprehensive drug program, and since she met with the chiefs of police, a comprehensive mental health program. That's part of building an inclusive society. Don't give up on all these people. Give them a chance to start again. I believe we have, I may be wrong about this, but I believe we've got the best chance we've had, at least in my lifetime, to get a bipartisan agreement to let more young nonviolent offenders out of prison with education and training, and to guarantee that they cannot be discriminated against when they apply for a job because they've been in trouble. This too is part of building an inclusive society. Thank you. So you got to do that. And then we need to look at the world we're living in, because we may have one of the crudest examples, but by no means the only example of people that are going all over the world saying, hey, everything is bad, it's us versus them, build a wall and close the door. This is going on everywhere in the world. Hillary believes that we need a national security strategy, but you got to build it on bridges, not walls. And I was very proud of the fact that from the beginning of her campaign, she said, you cannot possibly hope to defeat ISIS in the Middle East or prevent episodic terrorism in America without the active, aggressive support and involvement of American Muslims who love freedom, hate terror, and want to be part of this country's future. We do not want to demonize them. So, the last thing I want to say is this. I want to ask every one of you, if you have encounters with the supporters of the other candidates in the next 22 days, do not treat them the way they have treated Hillary and the way I've talked about our people. No matter how mean they are, extend your hand. Why? Because the root of this are people who have given up on America and believe America has given up on them. The root of this, not all these people are anti-racial minorities, religious minorities, the LGBT community. They just think all of our crowd counts more than they do, that nobody cares about them. In West Virginia, there are 2 counties where the number one source of income is a disability check for males. It's the only time in my lifetime when working class white life expectancy is going down among middle-aged people while it goes up among everybody else. You know what causes that? Well, if you read, they'll say, oh, well, it's drug abuse, alcohol abuse, suicide, the consequences of diabetes. The real cause is they're dying of a broken heart. Because they get up every day, they look in the mirror, and they think all their tomorrows are going to be like yesterday. That will spawn a lot of road rage. You're here at this great school because it empowers you. So stronger together means, among other things, that empowerment is better than resentment, that answers work better than anger, that cooperation always produces better results than constant conflict, and that in a world where all the borders look more like nets than walls, bridges are better than walls. Those are the four big things that will make up a strategy that works. And so if we're thinking about you instead of what's in most headlines, the straightforward case for Hillary is she's got a better economic plan to give us shared prosperity. She's got a better social inclusion plan so we all have a chance to participate in it. And she's got a better security plan because no country, even the United States, can proceed in the world alone. And the second thing is, maybe even more important, is she's the best equipped to deal with the two major threats to our security, our future. I honestly believe that we are on the verge of what could be the greatest period of discovery, prosperity, and shared opportunities in 100 years or more. I believe that. But it is threatened by two things. Continued political gridlock in Washington, reflecting the bitter divisions in our own country, and slow economic growth and political and military turmoil in other parts of the world. So she should be the president now. As President Obama said the other day, she's the best qualified person he's ever had a chance to vote for. She's better qualified than I was, and he pointed at me and said, and better than you were. Both of which are true for this time. Because you need somebody with a proven record of getting something done in Congress. You need someone with a proven record of being able to talk to enough Republicans to get some of them to go along. You need someone with a proven record of standing and understanding in the rest of the world. The only thing that survives our attempt to get along with Mr. Putin is a New START treaty that her team negotiated, and it makes nuclear war, accidental or intentional, less likely. And with all the troubles that Russia's causing in the world today, that's a good thing that that treaty is being honored. And so I just want you to go out the next 22 days. First, feel good about your country and your future. Nobody is better positioned. If I were your age again and someone gave me one of those great magic lanterns and a genie comes out and says, you can live anywhere you want in the next 30 years, but you have to decide right now. I look at you and all your faces and all the countries of the world and every continent represented, and I said, I'll take America. I wouldn't take 2 seconds to know that this is where I wanted to be. But it does require answers over anger. It does require empowerment over resentment. It requires cooperation over endless conflict. And it requires, as hard as it is sometimes, bridges, not walls, both within our country and on our borders. The other day I called a friend of Hillary's and mine who's working hard for her and loves her and lives in Texas, where we're only 3 points behind now. Texas. Go figure, the Dallas Morning News hadn't endorsed a Democrat in 75 years. They endorsed her. In Ohio, the Columbus and Cincinnati newspapers hadn't endorsed a Democrat in 100 years. They endorsed her. In Arizona, the biggest newspaper was founded in 1890, 126 years ago. They just made their first endorsement ever of a Democrat, and they got death threats for doing it, and they doubled down and said this proves we were right. Foreign Affairs Magazine and USA Today have never made an endorsement. They endorse Hillary. So I called this friend of mine and I said, you know, everybody's so mad all the time, and it's bad for us. It's bad for us to be infected by the poison, the venom. It gets in the way of doing things. So I said, give me a funny one-liner that captures the moment. He's good at it. He didn't even take a breath. He said, if you do not want someone to drive the truck over the cliff, don't give them the keys. So here's my message to you. You got 3 weeks to go out and decide first to empower yourselves and your friends, and then to talk to your neighbors about giving Hillary the keys. She's the best change maker I've ever known. If you give her the keys to that truck, the first thing she will do is go open the back of the truck and put everybody on. No matter how mad they are at her, no matter what they say, no matter what she'll say, give them a chance to get on the truck, and then she'll drive that truck to the highest mountain this country has ever seen. That's what you should tell people. God bless you.
This one goes out to the ones in need. This one goes out to the sinner and the cynical. This ain't about no apology. This road was paid by the hopeless and the hungry. This road was paid by the winds of change. Walking beside the guilty and the innocent. How will you raise your hand when they call your name? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We weren't born to follow. Come on and get up off your knees. When life is a bitter pill to swallow, you gotta hold on to what you believe. Believe that the sun will shine tomorrow. And now your saints and sinners bleed. We weren't born to follow. You gotta stand up for what you believe. Let me hear you say yeah, 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 oh yeah. This one's about anyone who does it differently. This one's about the one who curses and spits. This ain't about our living in a fantasy. This ain't about giving up or giving in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We weren't born to follow. Come on and get up off your knees. When life is a bitter pill to swallow, you gotta hold on to what you believe. Believe that the sun will shine tomorrow. And now your saints and sinners bleed. We were